Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of my vinyl collection video. I'm sorry this took so long, but I just have my high school exams and I've now finished them. I don't know if I've passed yet, I will know soon, but I was really busy studying and I will probably take a gap year this year, so that means I will have a lot more time to make videos, which is very exciting and very fun. Let's just get into it. I already have the vinyl put down beside me. Before we start, really quickly, if you've come back here, thank you so much for waiting and still watching and still caring. If you're new here, I do recommend checking out my first 2 videos of my vinyl collection first, so that you know everything I will be mentioning and referring back to quite often. For example, how I've obtained my vinyl. Then I will now link below my Spotify, my Discogs, and my Last.fm, and I will also make a playlist with albums, with a couple songs from the albums in my vinyl collection, and I will link that down below so that you can listen and check it out for yourself. Once again, thank you for all the lovely comments. It truly means so much to me, and I love just chatting back and forth with you guys and giving each other recommendations and talking about albums and setups and everything. Thank you so much. It's so much fun, and so please do that again if you have anything you want to let me know or anything you want to recommend me or just want to throw out there. I really love to read it. So let's just start off with the first album, right where we left off, and we're starting off with a kicker because it's Golden Hour by Casey Musgraves, a country pop album that leans way more towards pop than it does country. It might be derived from country, but it has very little to do with country in my opinion. This is mostly just a pop album with some country aesthetics and quirks. This is a phenomenally produced album. It's such a cohesive project, but every song still stands out in its own way. It has no skips, the songwriting is lovely, the production is really cool. It's an acoustic album, all with real instrumentation, and it has very little and minimal instrumentation in a way. And I don't know how to explain this, but the production on this is so pristine and crystal clear. It really lets the vocals and the guitar shine in a really beautiful way. It's her vocals are angelic and so smooth. She has a lovely voice, and it really fits the production on this album. And that is where this album really shines. Her vocals and the pristine, clear production. It's such a mellow, feel-good summer album. Really lovely acoustic feel to it. Very good. Definitely recommend it if you want a good summer album to spin in the afternoons. It's lovely. It's really, really good. And this album and this pressing sounds surprisingly pretty good too. It comes on a gatefold and it is a clear pressing. Very lovely. It has some residue from the factory left inside of the vinyl, as you maybe can see, but I kind of like that. Oh, then we're getting into my Kate Bush albums. I have quite a few. We're starting off with Lionheart, one of her lesser albums, but still quite nice. Then we have a phenomenal album, so well produced. Her production really starts to shine in these following albums, starting off with The Dreaming. This album is on par with Hounds of Love in my opinion, which is praised as her best usually. I think this one is just as good. Phenomenally produced, songwriting amazing, her lyricism is so beautiful, it's like poetry, and then of course she as a vocalist is so unique and so talented, so the vocal delivery is awesome as always, but the production is so cool and interesting, and you can really see she's just doing whatever she wants. On this album is one of my favorite songs of all time, called Suspended in Gefa. That song, I cannot explain to you how much I love that song. The way the verses just build up to this grand chorus that just feels larger than life, and it brings tears to my eyes. It's so incredibly beautiful. I cannot explain to you how deeply it touches my emotions and what it does to me. It feels like out of this world, like I'm ascending to another universe. God, it's so gorgeous. It's truly one of my favorite songs of all time, and I just get chills every time I listen to it. And then it also has so many other good songs like Sat in Your Lap and The Dreaming. Every song on here, very good. Definitely recommended if you like her other stuff, because it's just as good as Hounds of Love. Never Forever. This album is kind of regarded as one of her lesser albums. But I actually really love this one. I remember the first time I listened to it, I put it on, and it comes with a gatefold which has all the lyrics inside. And I just started reading the lyrics, and then I thought, okay, then afterwards I'll be doing something else. And I just ended up listening to the whole record twice without doing anything in between, just reading the lyrics. No phone, no other activity, just me sitting there reading and hearing. And oh my god, her songs, they're not just songs, they're poems. And she is a writer and a storyteller. It's just amazing. She also actually released a book, a sort of poetry book with lyrics from her songs, but they're just displayed as poems because that's what her songs are, poems. And she takes such interesting perspectives on songwriting. For example, there's a song, Wedding List, where she tells the story of murder and revenge. And then there's another story on here, Breathing, where she attempts to show the negative impact that nuclear wars, and she attempts to display those negative effects by taking the point of view of an unborn child inside of the womb of their mother, struggling to breathe because the air isn't clear anymore. And god, it's so well done. And again, the production and the vocal delivery, as always, phenomenal too. It's not just beautiful poems, they're also just absolute bangers. And there's so many good songs on here. Army Dreamers, about young soldiers setting off to war and throwing away their life, dying. She touches on so many amazing topics, really taking these poems and these stories to another level that not just lets you read them, but also adds musical component to truly envelop you into the story. Hounds of Love, which everyone has probably heard of, a classic album, a perfect album in my opinion. It starts off by easing you into it with a couple of really, really good timeless pop songs that are so well produced, and again, her vocals phenomenal. And then it just turns into this really experimental, really cool, different, darker vibe. Very, very amazing album. And if you haven't heard it and you love art pop, what are you doing? This is a classic, and it's still timeless and has influenced so many. Then we have maybe something that's less good, but still a ton of fun. Kid Creole and the Coconuts, Tropical Gangsters. The title says it's all. It's not to be taken that seriously. This was my grandpa's, or on that side of my family, and although, again, is it good? I don't know. Is it fun? Hell yeah, it is. And then we have a classic, one that I feel everyone should own, and that is Led Zeppelin 4, or I believe Untitled maybe, I'm not sure. Phenomenal rock album, so good, so solid. Really glad to have this on vinyl. It comes on this really cool gatefold. I love this picture so much. It is a newer pressing, and the pressing is pretty decent, but I especially love the packaging. Then we have La Chance, Linda de Souza, a French album that was my grandmother's. Need to revisit this, to be honest. Little Feat. Found Little Feat through one of Noble Records' heavy rotation videos, where he actually also did a cover on his guitar. I love his heavy rotation videos. I find really obscure stuff, and then also am reminded of really good classics that I want to check out. He has really fun videos, and I love watching them. And I found this one at a record fair, and I decided to pick it up, and it's a really cool album, and I love this cover. The way this looks like a snail and a bark, and then a cake sitting on a swing, and this repeating pattern over here. Really trippy album cover, really good album as well. Little Sims, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, phenomenal hip-hop record released in 2021. Amazing orchestration. It feels so grand and larger than life and like a cinematic experience. The way it uses these really cool orchestrations to make it almost feel like a sort of Disney movie. Her lyricism is phenomenal. Truly one of the best hip-hop artists out right now. And every time people are like, there aren't any good female rappers, I always point to Little Sims, because what are you doing if you haven't heard this? It is amazing. And this is the indie pressing, which means that it comes on this really cool split record. It's a double LP. It's a pretty good pressing too. Definitely recommend listening to this album, as it's one of the best hip-hop albums I've heard, to be honest. and the way she just tells her own stories, but they're also so relatable and so impactful. Her lyricism and her flows and cadence, it's all so refreshing and so well done. Then a 12-inch Madonna, Like a Virgin. Got this from the guy who I've got most of my setup from. He gave me a couple of records he had either doubled or didn't want anymore. This just has Like a Virgin and Stay, as it's a 12-inch single. Then we have a really good synth-pop album, and that is Magdalena Bay's Mercurial World, released in, I believe, also 2021. I love this cover so much. It's so pretty, and I have to show you the back in the gatefold. So pretty. One of the prettier album covers, maybe the prettiest one I own. A sheet with art on both sides, and this is the indie pressing, meaning it comes on this really cool red color. And this really just takes synth pop and adds so much exciting, new, creative energy to it. One of the best synth pop acts out right now. Really refreshing, really exciting. Taking elements of hyperpop and adding them to classic synth pop for a really cool, groovy feel. So if you like classic synth pop or pop, definitely check this out. I love the way it also plays with storytelling and the feeling of the album, starting with the song The End and ending with the song The Beginning. It plays with a lot of these elements and it does so phenomenally. Very good album, very well produced, very fun album. Definitely recommend. The Mamas and the Papas, Do You Believe Your Eyes and Ears? This was my grandma's, and my grandma had a lot of good records, but also some garbage. And this one, I had never heard of it or seen it when I first put this on, and I thought it wasn't going to be that good. I don't know, it just looks like a really cheesy cover. The name of the band, I don't know, it just gave me really tacky vibes. But it's actually very good, very fun, and it ended up also being quite a popular album. So I really didn't expect that. It was a very fun surprise, very nice album. Mezzo Forte, surprise, surprise. This was also from the guy who gave me a couple records, who I got my setup from. I don't really know what genre this is, but it's very good instrumental music that I loved playing while studying for my exams. Another one, a classic, Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. You can find this everywhere, and I think this is a really cool representation of a certain time and a certain place in electronic music, and to see how the landscape of electronic music looked during this time. The Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. Phenomenal cover. Found this one again through Noble Records. He did a video of cheap, affordable albums that are still very good. I don't really know how to describe this. Jazzy, orchestration, but then with rock, and I don't know, it's really, really cool. The Electronic Score of Hair by Mort Garson. God, this is cheesy, and it's tacky, and it's quirky, and it's goofy, but it's also so much fun. It's really of its time. It's very dated. It just sounds like the guy having fun on a Moog synthesizer and exploring and trying all these different sounds and melody. I also have another one by Mort Garson, Mother Earth's Plantatia, his by far his most popular album. Mort Garson does everything on a Moog synthesizer, and it's really of its time, but it also shows so much creativity and, again, a really specific point in time for electronic music. This album is so cute. It's truly so wholesome. The cover and the way it's music for plants, and it comes with a whole book on how to take care of the plants, and with a card, download card that's plantable. Oh my god, who thought of that? So cute, and a really good sounding record too. Then we have a classic. I think this one is generally considered the best of its genre, and that is My Bloody Valentine Loveless, the best shoegaze album, a lot of people say. I think I might agree personally from what I've heard so far of shoegaze. Phenomenal album. I don't know how this guy did any of this. It sounds so crazy, just wow. I don't know how they got the guitars to sound like this. I do remember reading somewhere that this album ended up really flopping at the beginning and taking so much money to make because of all the guitar pedals. This guy took way too long to create the album. The label was very angry for him spending all the money and taking this long for then the album to flop. But then years and years later, it has gained such a cult following, and no album comes near sounding anything like this. I don't know, it's crazy, it's magical. It's so distorted, but it's so full and rich. You would think with all that distortion and craziness going on, it would sound so aggressive and in your face, but somehow it's the most luscious, most graceful record ever, with these angelic vocals floating above, and then the guitars just drowning out the sounds, but in a beautiful way, leaving out the most essential and beautiful sounds. It's truly an experience listening to this, and I definitely recommend listening to it if you like the Smashing Pumpkins, as I feel like that's sort of where that sound of guitar really started, or what reminded me of it. If you want to get into shoegaze or just want to hear an essential rock album or an essential album of the 90s, go ahead and check this out. Very, very good, and also a phenomenal pressing. Got this one at Christmas. NASA's Illmatic. God, one of my favorite albums of all time. This is the first record I ever got. I got this record before I had a record player. I could not help myself, and this is what started it all. What started all of this that you can see right there. So I'm very thankful for it. I knew this album beforehand because this is my favorite hip-hop album as of now. God, this album is good. There's not a single skip on here. The lyricism, the beats, the hooks, everything is so good. Say hello. But God, is it good. Such a good hip-hop album. If you want to get into hip-hop, or if you love hip-hop and somehow have not heard this, go check this out. It's really regarded as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time, and I agree. This thing is so solid. This album is also just good for every time. It's a perfect summer album, perfect spring album, perfect evening album. Love listening to this while going out skating. Every time I revisit it, I have more and more appreciation for what this is. Then we have one that was my grandma's. I'm not that into it, but I do want to give it a second chance, and that is Neil Diamond, You Don't Bring Me Flowers Anymore, or You Don't Bring Me Flowers, I'm sorry. I liked it, but I didn't love it, so I have to revisit it. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Uncle Charlie's Dog Teddy and His Dog Teddy. This was from Dick, who was the guy we got all his records from, and he had mostly country, classical, and world music. And this is a country album. If anyone knows anything about this band, I think it's very stereotypical country, but it was actually kind of nice. I don't know. It had some really cool guitar. The last one for today, and that is A Moment Apart by Odessa. Gorgeous album cover, gorgeous. It's one of the first albums I got, and I think this is the first album I truly fell in love with. I was very young, and it's the first album I listened to throughout the whole thing and fell in love with it that way instead of individual songs, and it just totally captivated me. I was struck by it, it's so gorgeous. I remember studying in first year of high school, maybe something like that, and I was studying, and when I put on this album I had to stop because this was the only thing I could listen to, and I would close my eyes and imagine all these scenarios for music videos along with it, and God, it would just take me to another place. It's electronic music with a little bit of pop, but it also has somehow these really new agey vibes. I don't know how to explain it, but this sort of larger than life spiritual energy. The packaging on this is really, really high quality, really nice. The pressing itself comes on this clear vinyl. It's a double LP. I do not love this as much as I did when I first heard it, but it's definitely still good. And the pressing is decent. It's not amazing, it's decent. But I'm still very glad to have this on vinyl, and the packaging is just phenomenal. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this. I'm gonna do these next time, and somewhere in this is my favorite album of all time, which I'm very excited to also talk about with you guys in the next video. The next one's gonna be up way sooner than, it's not gonna take 2 months this time, I promise. I'm so sorry. Once again, my Last.fm, Discogs, Spotify, and the playlist will be down below if you want to check any of those. If you have anything to let me know, please do. And the speaker positioning, I've tried to make a little bit more room, but it's kind of hard. You guys are on top of the couch right now with the camera, so there's not a lot of space, so I'm not sure how else to position my speakers. I will think about it, and when I do a setup video, maybe you guys can give me some suggestions. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Please let me know any recommendations, any thoughts, anything down below. And I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!